So, One Punch Man 136, Unconquerable, is another good chapter on Punch Man. It's nice because, especially with now that we've wow, Matt, doing such a good job. Well, after we've finished now with the big ride that was Tatsumaki versus Sairochi, we're now getting some downtime, I guess. And we know it's not going to be long before other faces start showing up, like the other association executives, Garo, Saitama. But we need these down moments to really play up the big moments. We've said this before, and you've probably heard this somewhere else, but, you know, storytelling's like a roller coaster. You can't just have it constantly be, like, downhill, otherwise there's no thrill. Sometimes, you know, especially that, you've got to have the build-up, the ups, you've got to have the straights before you can get to the downs and the loops and the screws that make up, like, the enjoyment of the story. And you say that, but this was also a good chapter, as One Punch Man generally is. So, starts off, first of all, for Fubuki, looking great on the cover as always. We go straight into the chapter after that, and Darkshine is in a ball, just defeated from his fight with Garo, mentally more than anything. And what you've got to admire, at least about Murata, is a lot of shonens. They, you know, when the guys fight, you know, they might get scuffed and bloody and they'll take some damage, but, you know, they don't really get nude. But when girls fight in shonens, oh wow, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the attack landed perfectly on the top of where the chest is, you know, it's just that time and time again. At least, like, Murata and One, they're like, well, hang on. Come on, guys. One of the first things we see is just Puri and Zombie Man completely naked. I just gotta give him props for it. Like, Tat showed a lot of skin in that fight previously. So they're just like, you know what? The guy's gonna show some skin too. Fair enough. So with them obviously confronting him on, you know, they're like, you lost a fight? You, Darkshine, actually lost in one-on-one combat? And he's like, you don't understand the monster that lies within. You know, he's truly evil. You know, that's how they describe and build him up, and obviously that says a lot, obviously not only for Garo's current strength, but the fact that other S-class heroes are saying, you know, Darkshine actually lost. We knew that Darkshine was incredibly powerful, but it's just small bits like that to hype up the story even more. And then we get to the child of One Punch Man. Like, I guess, like, it makes sense because he is the main villain of this arc. He's the antagonist of this story arc, Garo. He gets so much love by Murata in particular, because there's so many panels and like pages of him in this chapter. I'm like, wow, he looks amazing, wow, he looks amazing, wow, he looks amazing, wow, he looks amazing. First one, when he's underground, obviously all the rubble's on there and he's starting to push himself up. He looks sick, you know, he's the vision of absolute despair. You know, there's so many, obviously him, and I'm just going to go over these right now. There's him when he's a giant, like, and he's terrifying the world. There's him when, like, he's on his own and, like, he truly feels on his own and, like, it's so simple, but I love the black surrounding the white. Garo would stand out. And obviously you've also got, you know, when he's thinking of Tario in his last moments, and then that scary Garo, which is probably the scariest, and of course we're getting to a monster form of Garo finally after 7 years. I feel it's about 7 years. It's been a while, 6-7 years since Garo died in the manga, so we're getting some progress finally with that. But I'm not complaining about the road we've got to here, of course. Like, there's many videos of me saying how much I enjoy the story, but I'm ready to see Garo just let loose, you know? Something obviously quite important we go to in this chapter as well is we get into Garo's ideals of what he wants to be as a monster. He's figured out what his idealistic evil is, like what he wants. And it's explained to us that what Garo's ultimate goal is, which was pretty big when I read it originally, was Garo wants to be an evil that the world fears, because humanity will unite against him in that case. Well, not to rise up against him. He wants to be an evil that no one tries to topple. He still wants to be the greatest god-level threat there is. But at the same time, he still wants to be this villain that is unparalleled. Like, the point where, like, fighting him is a joke. You don't fight him. You do what you can to survive from him. You know, that's what it is. Like, he describes, you know, he doesn't want biased justice. He wants an unbiased evil. Yeah, no, he doesn't want a biased justice, he wants impartial evil. Well, I love obviously the representation of this, like when obviously he shows up and everyone's just in fear of him. It's obviously shown by, like, you know, the homeless person and the rich person holding hands in unity. Like, he thinks by his ideals, people like Arkun, the kid who used to bully him as a child, like, who used to bully him as a child, showed it, like, would disappear from the world because they don't have a biased evil, they don't have a biased justice to follow. Whereas and ultimately he basically wants to be like, you know, I guess he wants to save the world by uniting against them, but he still hasn't killed a human, so this is where it kind of crosses, like, because the thing is, Goro hasn't killed a person. He's obviously beaten people brutally, but eventually there will be people who that line might need to be crossed with. And the question is, how far can Goro push this ideal without killing someone? Because that doesn't seem like Goro's thing. Like, no matter how badly he's beaten people, he's, you know, I guess he could, and like, obviously Goro will push people to the very limit of it. Like, one of the first things we saw him do was take off Bluefire's arm, you know, just, yeah, it was Bluefire's arm, yeah, Bluefire's arm. We've seen him obviously beat people to a pulp, so they're in hospital for ages. Like, he will push things to the very limit, but he still hasn't killed anyone. It'll be interesting to see how far he goes with that. And also, because I know I talk about this a lot, but I am super interested in obviously the dynamics between like big characters and how they reflect on the main character. And he is pretty much I'm trying to figure this out how to say it. He's like the opposite of Saitama, which he should be because he's the current villain of the arc. Like, you know, there should be things that make him similar, but other things that stand him out, like that make him stand out. And obviously, Saitama wanted to be the greatest hero in the world, wanted to beat anyone with one punch. Goro was one of the first things we got introduced about him, was he wanted to be the world's greatest monster. So obviously that set up that dynamic straight away. But even their ideals, I guess, like Saitama wants to be the ideal hero. Like, he wants challenges, but he also wants to save people and to help people. I guess he wants to create a world that's safe for monsters, because one thing that he's disappointed about is no matter what he does, the fact is the ratio of monsters is not going anywhere, so that's a problem for him. Whereas Garo, you know, basically they want peace but different means. But like Garo's peace in his head is not necessarily like an ideal. It's more like, I guess, a militaristic peace. Like, you live in peace because you don't have a choice. You know, it's my way or you're dead, as far as they know. But once again, Goro still, like, it's difficult to believe Goro can enforce this without the notion of death, you know. I guess it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out, you know. Basically, is Goro going to attempt to kill someone, like kill a human? He's killed monsters, of course, but like monsters mostly have given up their humanity, and obviously there's been revelations in this, and I guess I should probably do videos on the redraws, because there's been some big things. Well, oh, okay, we'll sort that out later. But of course, like, there are obviously problems with this, is the fact that, like, you know, not everyone is going to be happy. Is because obviously, as one of his last thoughts before he starts to give into that monstrification, is of Tario, and Tario's like, "What are you?" He's like, "Because," he's like, "How did you find me?" And he's like, "Because I'm a monster." And like, you know, he sees his scared face. It's almost like his regret because of Tario. Like, it's like he's struggling to keep his eye open. Like, it's almost like his last shred of humanity is with Tario. Like, I've said this for ages, of course. Like, obviously, a big thing for Garo has been his relationship with Tario, but I think now, obviously, we'll see how right I am. I don't like saying that. Basically, we'll see how much Garo and Tario's relationship puts him to the test as a monster more than anything. And definitely something I'm looking forward to now that you know about Garo's kind of ideal society, is whenever he does genuinely meet Saitama, because Saitama has such a great way of dealing with these kind of characters, because he's so unique in these incidences where, like, other heroes might be like, "Oh, stiff upper lip," like Darkshine did earlier. He was like, you know, try as a hero. But like, Saitama doesn't speak to people necessarily as a hero. He speaks to them as a person. So I'll be interested to see how he deals with this. A lot of people deal with the spiel of that, but Saitama, whenever he corrects someone, he speaks like, "Well, this is my experience, you know, maybe do this, maybe do that." Like, especially when, I guess, converting people like Glasses and Suiryu to being better people and trying to better themselves, he was like, "I don't know, just do what you gotta do, I guess." So I want to see how he's going to interact. I don't imagine Saitama's going to have a big heroic speech when he does this, but I would be fully fine if he's like, no doubt, like a very similar one to how he spoke to Fubuki. That would be awesome too. So we then go back to Darkshine, who has lost himself at this point, and we get some interesting character moments here from people. Well, mostly Amai, but I guess this whole bit now is about, like, the heroes fully trying to come together as a team, you know? They've all been beaten in one way or another, and like they are realizing at this point that they can't beat these guys on their own. These aren't opponents that they can beat. They've been quite lucky with the opponents they've had for most of it, and we've seen before cooperation is key when taking on higher opponents, mostly Melzagard, back when Boros invaded. But at the same time, let's go from the beginning. So we get back to the guys. Obviously, Darkshine's is in a terrible state, and he's just full of self-pity, and he's in his own... He's basically like, oh, I'm worthless, I'm terrible, I can't do this. And he's looking for excuses at this point. And as I've said before, I really thought it'd be Metalbat's moment to come and sort this out, because Metalbat is all about the spirit, like, it's all about spirit and, like, having the guts to do something because it needs to be done. So it surprised me, of all people, when he's feeling like this, that a Mind Mask came in to save the day. He kicked him while he was halfway through, like, his self-pity, and he was like, I realise I'm not a hero, I only came here to look for an easy victory. And he is like, and he's furious with him, but it's like a caring furious, which is interesting from a Mind Mask, considering where we were at the end of the last chapter, where he was ready to kill them all. We are now at a stage with a Mind Mask, because, like, I guess ever since he remembered about Blast, he's trying to, like, I guess, focus on himself as a hero again. So he starts by belittling. And Mind Mask starts by belittling Darkshine, like, we don't need losers like you, wimps, go out, go away, get lost, you know, aren't you, and then he eventually gets to that point where he's like, aren't you so angry with your own spinelessness? You know, he's trying to build him up in a different way. He's trying to get the fire going in Darkshine again. And obviously, it's obviously clear to us that he's not just talking about Darkshine, he's talking about himself. So this is hints, I'm guessing, towards his past, you know, like, there's something that he has done, like, this might have been his past, you know, maybe something happened, he was spineless at the time, and then Blast ended up saving him, that's what really, like, put him on the path of being a hero, and at the same time, we've also, you know what I mean? I'm not doing a great job, but you know what I mean, like, something has happened with Amaya, and maybe it's also reflecting on his actions, maybe even just a moment ago, like, he was spineless. Instead of trying to face himself and trying to accept his flaws, he's been ignoring them. Like, this is one thing he's been doing for a while, is whenever someone's criticised him or suggested to do something that he thinks is beneath him, he's never been like, you're right, I'm sorry, I need to do better. He himself has always been like, he's always reflected onto them, he's like, well, you're a mere child emperor. I mean, especially, you go back into the time when they're all meeting before the Monster Association raid, like, anytime someone spoke to Amai, he started belittling them back instead, you know, that's just how it was, I think with the exception of King. And then, of course, I like that Zombie Man's very observant of what's going on. Like, he picks up on this, and so does Puri, to be fair. Like, these two pick up on it. So when Atomic goes to say, well, hang on a minute, I don't think you're the right person to tell him how to handle spinelessness, you know? So I'm happy Zombie Man stops, and he's like, this isn't the time. I'm happy because we know Zombie Man's like an investigator, he's observant, so it makes sense, of course, for him, of all people, to notice this, and I like that he gets what's going on, too. He's like, let him finish. We gotta, you know, he gets, I think they all get, obviously by the end of the chapter, they all get, we gotta work together. That's the only way we're gonna beat these guys. Because as they make clear throughout this chapter, they've all been beaten, one way or another. Like, they are no match for these guys solo. Like, they time and time again, they push themselves to the limits, but they need to work together to secure the victory. Any case, what I like about, especially Puri getting involved with this conversation as well, it's like the two sides of, I guess, comfort? I guess not comfort, but, like, you know, when someone's, like, emotionally battered like this, like, there's two ways to handle it. There's the way of what Mime did, and where you're blunt with them and you're honest and you're like, you have to get back up, you know? We need you on our side, and in hopes of, like, stoking the fire inside them to get up. And then Puri went the opposite way of that and comforted him. He's like, you know, he's like, you've done this, but, like, you're saying you've not got this, but you do. As he goes on, like, you want to protect yourself. That's important. Every person is looking out for themselves ultimately, and you have to protect yourself above everything else, you know? You went to the effort of changing yourself before with your muscles, you know? You worked hard to get to where you are now, so this is where you are again. You need to work hard to change yourself, just in a different way. And I like that Puri had this conversation with him. I like that these guys came together, and I guess, like I said, I was very much like Metalbat should, but I do appreciate that Mind Mask is the one who had this conversation with him too, because it at least stops him from being a complete dickhead, you know? Like, Mind Mask has done a lot of terrible things, like, he's got a lot of irredeemable qualities about him, but at the same time, they're trying to show us that there's more to this character, and I just like when Murata and One do this. Like, I like it when they show us more to a character than just being like, this is what One Punch Man is. There's more to a character than just being like, oh, I'm this stereotype, or I'm that stereotype, you know? There's more sides to them, and even if it's just small stuff, it really just impacts when it does. So I'm ready to see this more than anything. And obviously this eventually does stoke the fire within Darkshine, you know, they're there, and he's eventually like, I don't know how I feel about the final thing that Puri did to get him. I was like, you know, if you don't get up, I'll give you a deep kiss. And he's like, I've had enough! And then Darkshine gets back up and he's ready to fight. Now, Darkshine is probably not going to be at the same level that he was before because, of course, Darkshine is now, he's emotionally raw still. Like, you know, his confidence, his confidence just can't come back like that. He's not back to where he was before. He's like, I'm Darkshine, I'm the greatest, you know? He's still probably pretty emotionally, emotionally raw. He's, you know, it's gonna take a bit for him to get back to where he is, but he's on the path to get there now. And with the right encouragement and the right success, he could get there very quickly. But we have to see, of course, how this goes on from here, because now that the heroes have fully come together as a team, actually, there was one bit I really liked. When they're talking to him, that's it, when he's like, look at your body and see how it trembles. Your muscles are crying out. And it's Amaya Mask who says, like, you know, the body shows you've overcome limitations before, so don't give in to weakness now. I love that it's got that little panel of Ian there too, to show it's listening, he's paying attention. This is important for him as well, you know. Don't show weakness now, don't give in to it. You might not be on the same level, but you're doing whatever you can to help. Like, because the thing with Ian is, like, he accepts that he's not near the S-Class level yet, so, but it's also that message him saying, you know, do what you can to help now, because they're going to need every hand they can get at this point. And it is still a case of, like, you don't obviously want too weaker opponent, like, people there, but Ian's proven himself to be very capable. You know, this could be a good step for his growth to get to that dream he wants to be, to eventually surpass his master, but as a start, pushing him closer to an S-Class level, really earning that top of A-Class level that he is. On another note, I actually really like the whole, I love when Amaya Mask is reflecting on himself, he's like, he genuinely says, you know, I've made mistakes, I've failed before, but I get myself back up, because that's what heroes do. I love that, because it actually tries to show that there's something about him that wants to improve, but what I love even more than that, now, I think, and it's no surprise, I think Drive Knight's pretty shady, of course, but I cannot deny that his design is very cool, and I loved how they've represented that, you know, heroes don't give up. This is what a hero does. This is what Saitama said before, you know. I say it a lot, but when he says to Fubuki, a real hero fights on their own or with many, but they have to fight and they don't give up, because it's what a true hero does. Like, we've seen this time and time again. But when Drive Knight is flying, obviously, as the narration's going, Psycho shoots him down, and then he turns into the bike, drives down the tower, ramps off, turns to the jet, and he's back in the fight. You know, with a hero, you've got to find ways to keep in the fight. You've got to keep doing what has to be done, because that's what heroes do. And I love that being as the representation, because, you know, like, his design's so cool. Man, I can't deny how cool Drive Knight's bike form is. It's so, like, it's just a cool thing, and it does one of my favourite things, which I talked about, is, like, perspective of, like, as if it's like a camera following, like, he stays on the same angle, like, as he drives down the hill, he finds around, and he's back off into the fight. I love that, that was very cool. In any case, with Amai back on his feet, we then go to see the rest of them, and Atomic actually spots Tank Top's tower. Like, he spots the tower flying, so he knows, oh, well, there's an opportunity to take it down. He's like, well, we need to cooperate, take down this tower again. And immediately, I like that the moment they're all like, yeah, friends are me, just ripping into Atomic Samurai. Like, hang on, wait, you want to team up? Mr. I Work Alone? Have you eaten something funny? Like, and even Pickle's like, you should watch what you eat, you know, don't, just be careful. And he's like, I'm gonna cut you. Like, and he's like, and Atomic at this point is like, we'll work together this time, you know, we'll do it this once, and then not after this, because even Atomic has to accept that, you know, they need to work together. It's important for them to work together at this point. So we know it's going to work, because whatever they're going to do, I'd be very surprised if they fail these next few things they do, because we've had this big uplifting moment where they've kind of had a one-to-one with each other about, like, you know, being better, like, you know, trying to improve on what they failed on, because that's what heroes do. Because especially, they've all been shown to be, like, I guess the stereotypes of, like, you know, oh, I'm the macho guy, I'm the cool swordsman. Like, they've got a few of each, they've got a few macho guys, a few cool swordsmen. Yeah, you know, the few, like, a lot of them are pretty much loners. Like, not many of them are like, oh, hey, let's work together. Like, a lot of the lower ranks are, because they get that they have to team up to take on, like, more powerful threats, because they don't need the help. But now they're realising that they do need the help. Ultimately, I feel like I'm running around in circles a bit here. So, Tank Top shows up, and like, Atomic spotted this a while ago, and you know, like, I'm happy that Tank Top's there in the fight, because how does he enter? He jumps, after jumping off the telephone tower, he does a couple of flips, he lands by doing a squat, and he's like, I'm here to help, I see the tornadoes fighting, what's the situation? And everyone like, oh, it's Tank Top, and then you got a few, even Atomic's like, yo, Tank Top's here, welcome back, get him. If he just gave, like, a hug to Tank Top. I'm ready, man. I'm ready to see Tank Top do some stuff. It's a shame that like he's been portrayed as a weaker hero, because I've grown to really like Tank Top just from Portrayal the past few chapters. Like, people have just been jumping up in ranks, and I'm loving it. It's very cool stuff. And even like the conversation between Zombie Man and a Mind Mask, where he's actually like, you know what, you're not who I thought you were. You know, you've changed my mind on you. So what's that supposed to mean? And just Child Emperor having a bit of relief that they're growing as people, where the child is having to, like, he can take a bit of a step back. He's putting a lot of work this arc, so if he can take a bit of a step back, and these guys can take the lead, well, as they should, because they're the adults and he's the child. That's where we're going with this. And obviously, like, there's the end line where, you know, like, let's work together. It's like, I don't know if I can work together with someone who's nude, but I will try. It's like, okay, Orion Mask, because they're just having the fun of being like, you know, Zombie Man's being playful. That little smirk Zombie Man gives to Amaya at the end is so good. So they're at a stage now where they're ready to do stuff. So I'm ready for them to see them in action as a team now. Like, they're going to take down the tower, and obviously their respective fights against the cadres. I guess, like, the ultimate strategies they can do is pretty much have Child step back, be observant, try and figure out stuff, like help out, I guess, like the not smart characters. Like, for example, Zombie Man will probably be okay on his own because he's very observant, but help out people who necessarily aren't the smartest. And working teams against their respective opponents. Child Emperor can spot weaknesses, give advice, give strategies, and then they can pull them off. In terms of their heaviest hitters, you've got Darkshine and Atomic Beam there. They're the ones who are going to stand the best chance against the cadre in terms of hitting it. So it might be you use the other characters as support, as defense, to get those guys hitting them, giving them the damage that they deserve. But we'll see, because we're still in this Sairochi jet battle. But the cadres can't be too far. Like, with the way Garo's going and the hints towards Saitama coming up soon, the cadres I just think they've got to show up before the other guys do. But I'm excited. I'm ready to see what goes on for the rest of this. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm hoping the cadres show up next, to be honest. The chapter's already out by now, so you guys will know. But yeah, what do you think of this chapter? Did you like the interactions between the characters? Did you like what you saw with Garo as well? What's your opinions on that? Once again, no webcomic spoilers, please, because I'm a manga only. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you later. Yeah, cool, bye. I'm still here after telling